Okay, some of my favorite stuff here. So I came up with 5 things that all retirees should start doing before your retirement ends in ruin. So if you're within 5 years of retirement, you got to know this stuff. If you're in retirement, please pay attention, take notes, rewatch it multiple times. I've had 20 plus years of working with this stuff, seeing what works and what doesn't work out there. And a lot of this stuff is extremely logical. So let's jump right in. The first thing to do before your retirement ends in ruin, please don't lose sight of your big picture. This is really one of the most common things that this one quick little exercise will help fix. There's too many people that are so worried about every single penny and they forgot about all the dollars. Okay, so let's make sure we see the forest and the trees. All right, so first, every year, and I'm not talking every week, every month, I'm talking once a year. I want you to sit down and take inventory. Okay, it's real simple. You got 3 buckets of money plus you got equity. So you got all your IRA savings. This is all the money you've never paid taxes on. So you should have a handle on what this is. Roth money. This is all the money you paid taxes on, but you never have to pay taxes on again. Okay. After tax saving. This is all the extra money, all the money that's not in your Roth, not in your IRA. And then equity is how much equity you have in real estate, whether it's 1 house or 12 houses, all your equity in real estate. Okay. Then I want you to look at all this money and say, well, what do I consider safe, stable investments? If the money's for some people, they think bonds are safe and stable, or CDs, or annuities, or whatever you consider safe and stable, add that up. And whatever you consider risk-based investments, let's add that up. Okay. Then I want you to tally up your guaranteed income, whether it's pension income or Social Security, or you've triggered some guaranteed income annuities, whatever your guaranteed income is. Then round number. I don't need the penny, and I don't need the penny on these, just within thousands. Then I need a round number of what your base bills. What's it take to pay the bills, and then how much fund money you need for the upcoming year above these bills. Okay. Once a year, that's your inventory. If you're doing it every year, this shouldn't take you long to do. This is sitting down at a desk, and if you try to go to the pennies, then you're not looking at the big picture. The budget, things like that, to the nearest hundred of dollars. All right. Once you have that done, I want you to do some basic math. Do the math annually. This math is more useful if done every year. Okay, and I typically tell people this exercise should be done in November, early November, okay, towards the end of the year, because you're going to do other things with this stuff, but these are the 2 things that help you come back to that big picture. Do the math annually. You're going to take whatever your current age is. You're going to take the total savings. I usually don't use equity. You could certainly use the equity if you want to. Take that total savings, divide it by how many years until you're 100. Now, I say years in retirement because people try to argue with me. I'm never going to live to 100. Fine, to 95, to 90, whatever it is you think is right, but overshoot it. Whatever you think is absolute, the longest you could live plus 5 years. Okay. So in this case, 100 years old, $1 million divided by 35 equals 28,000. That's a number that tells you, wait a second, if I put all the rest of my money in $1 bills in my closet and I don't invest it at all, I don't earn another penny, I can pull out $28,000 every year for 35 years, which means I don't have to worry about running out of money till 100. This number is important. Add this to your guaranteed income. That is your reasonable budget for the upcoming year. Compare that to your need to pays and want to pays, right? You already did this inventory. Your base bills are right here. Your fund money's right here. That would be your budget for the year. Compare this number to that. As long as your desired income is less than what your resources are, you're fine. Go enjoy your year. It's important. This tells you you're okay, or it tells you that you need to pay attention. If your desired income is more than your resources, then yes, you have to pay attention. And some people say, well, what about inflation? What about growth? I invested this money. Okay, well, I get that. But that is why we do the new calculation again next year. So instead of using fictitious funny money numbers, oh, I averaged 6% growth, or the Monte Carlo that statistically runs through a million scenarios, I get all that, but that's all speculative. Let's use reality. This is helping you see your big picture, not everybody else's. So next year, guess what? You're a year older, which means you have a year less. That's where this gets depressing. If you start getting down to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the clock is ticking. But when you have a smaller divisor, guess what happens to the amount you can withdraw? And oh, by the way, if you're invested properly and the value of your money grows, we're using actual growth, not fictitious growth. So if it grew 6% this year, wonderful. You take the new total of savings, including the actual growth, not some predicted fictitious growth, and you do this new math, and it should come out and show you that you should be able to pull more the next year, and then do it again the next year, and you can pull more. And that's what helps you keep up with inflation. So we're using actual numbers instead of fictitious projections. This is going to help you stay grounded and understand your money. You may not, it all doesn't necessarily click right away, but once you've done this 2, 3, 4 years, it all starts making sense. And it is that once a year grounding that people need in retirement that allows you to say, you know what, I'm fine. I'm going to go enjoy retirement. I'm not going to worry about money this year. The next one is dump a bad advisor. Look, advisors come in all different colors because guess what? I can wake up and call myself a financial advisor. I can have no licensing whatsoever. There is no regulatory world or enforcer out there that says you can only call yourself a financial advisor if you have this. That just doesn't exist. So anybody can wake up any day and call themselves a financial advisor. So the salesmen, look, they come in all different stripes. Salesmen are people that are primarily concerned about you using whatever widget they want you to use, and that's it. It comes backwards. I have this, I need to sell this, and I'm going to fit it into your needs instead of your needs first and what is right for you, right? So if you're in retirement, a good advisor, a good financial planner is their weight in gold. Okay. Understand that salesmen, yes, there's people out there doing dinner seminars. Understand that costs them a good $10,000 to $15,000 to put those events on. The mailers alone are $5,000 just to get people there. Then you've got dinner of another $5,000 to $10,000 as well, depending on how nice the place they go to. They are put in a position of having to sell you commissioned products. Radio campaigns. I know somebody actually that's paying close to 40 grand a month for their radio show. 40 grand a month. Now that's over in Texas. That he runs one of the top financial radio shows. But the reality is he's put in a position that he has to sell. TV campaigns are even way more expensive. Somebody here in Arizona spending over $300,000 on their TV campaigns. So they are put in positions of having to make commissions, having to sell, having to recoup things. But understand this goes on everywhere. This is quotas. If I'm an employee for a big company name that you all know and love, I may have a quota. I have to sell X amount, or I have to use these bonds or sell this mutual fund because the CEO's kid just got out of college. There's a lot of stuff going on that forces advisors to be salespeople. So pay attention. The customer service, please understand their job is there to make you happy. The company's managing your money and making decisions, not this individual. They're answering questions from scripts and from computer answers, from AI answer systems that they put in computers nowadays. So you've got to be careful about trying to get actual advice from them. Okay. One, they don't really understand always what they're talking about. The investor, this person has their blinders on. In some cases, these are useful. Advisors actually use investors quite often. Think about this like a mutual fund manager. You invest money in a mutual fund, that the person managing that mutual fund has never met you and has no clue who you are or what your needs or desires are. They're just investing the money. That's it. There's plenty of investors out there. There's no difference between retirement and a 20-year-old, right? So it's important to understand that an investor there is not there to help with taxation or required distributions or any of that stuff. So a real financial planner reduces taxation and fees. Their job should be trying to create that efficiency. It's very important. Yes, they are adding a fee, but they should be able to make that up by reducing taxation and fees. I was just sitting down with a lady who had a bunch of mutual funds with over 1% in fees in every single one of those mutual funds, when those mutual funds are also available in ETF form with a fraction of the cost. I immediately drop a full percent out of that portfolio in seconds just by adjusting the investments that are in there. That is a great example of that. But then creating the efficiencies on the taxation side is huge. And this is really important for the retirees out there. Less important for the people just saving through their 401k, right? Build an income plan for retirement. Huge efficiencies here. This is not only something that is important to create a sustainable retirement, but to squeeze juice out of a turnip, right? We're trying to get as much out of our money as possible, which does mean the taxation side of this, especially on income planning. So important that we pull all of that together through a good quality income plan. Helps ensure your estate plan is in order, your will, your trust, they're the quarterback, because unfortunately, at least here in Arizona, the estate planning world is as much of a sales world as anything else out there. Everybody needs a trust. And then the kids get that trust and it's too complex for them. They don't know what to do, so they call the estate planning attorney and get charged more fees. It is a racket out there. Can easily save good money here with a good financial planner. So select the proper investments for the right type of money. I can't tell you how much this makes a difference. When I get to the next section or a section after this, we'll talk about some of the most important things from a tax standpoint. And investing your after-tax money should be completely different than your IRA, which also should be completely different than your Roth. They all come with different rules. This matters in retirement. It doesn't matter as much in your wealth building years, in your savings years, but it does matter significantly as you head off into retirement. IRA planning to reduce taxes and address required distributions, marriage counselor and mediator. I can't tell you how much time I spend being a psychologist versus an actual financial planner, and there's plenty more. So it's important that you understand that. And the funny thing is, they all pretty much charge the same exact fees. So are you getting what you're paying for? That's the important part. All right. The next thing, please, please, please know that you are different than everybody else. So if you read a book, watch a TV show, whatever, listen to a radio show, anybody talking to the masses, I'm sorry, but you're not that person. There are so many people that are different. I had somebody in my office today quoting Susie Orman, and it really had absolutely nothing to do with her situation, but hey, it was good advice for the generality of the world out there. You are different. You have different amounts of IRA savings versus Roth savings versus after-tax savings. You have different amounts of equity in your real estate. You have different amounts of safe and stable investments, risk-based investments. You have different amounts of guaranteed income. And even more so, you have different desires and aspirations in retirement. You may want to give your money to your heirs, whereas somebody else may want to spend their last dollar on their last day. Everything about you makes you an individual, which means everybody else, what they're doing, yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm all for getting educated and understanding how this is because, well, it's obvious. I love educating, but it's because I want you to ask smart questions and I want you to see through the garbage that's out there, the sales that could care less about how individual you are. Applying what you're learning is the hardest part about all of this. It is important that anybody trying to make decisions on investments and income planning and preparing you for retirement and making sure that you're able to enjoy retirement, it's important that they understand all about you and your situation, not just your money, because it all applies into the decision-making skills that they're going to have and making sure they're making the right decisions for you in your best interest. That's the role of a fiduciary. The next thing for retirees, before it's too late, be prepared for inflation. We had a bout with it. I would love to think we're going to go back to another several decades of 2-3% benign inflation. But I got news for you. We are under a mountain of debt. We're over 120% debt to GDP right now, which is the classic calculation. I like to think of it more like debt to income ratio on a mortgage. It tells us whether we should borrow more money or not. And the answer is no, we should not. We are in debt. The last time we were in debt like this was right after World War II. And I got news for you. Go back and study it yourself. We got rid of that debt. Look at this. Peaked. We were 114% debt to GDP, and we said, nah, no big deal. We can get rid of that. We brought it all the way down to here, down to the 70s, where we saw about 35% debt to GDP. Wouldn't that be fantastic? I'd love to go back to 35% debt to GDP. But guess what? At the end of World War II, we owed $259 billion in national debt. And in the 70s, we got it all the way down to, we raised it to $371 billion. So how on earth did we go from 114% debt to GDP down to 35% debt to GDP while not paying off a penny, as a matter of fact, getting in more debt? Well, I got news for you. We did what's called yield curve control. We pushed interest rates down artificially. We kept them low artificially. We had the economy running nice and hot. We increased our GDP. There's two ways to control debt to GDP. You can lower the debt or you can raise the GDP, right? Well, guess what that led to? Well, the inflation of the 70s. So we saw the double-digit inflation in the 70s. We saw what we had to do to interest rates in the 70s. So think about it like this. When we saw that 8-9% inflation, what if the feds did nothing? What if they kept the interest rates low and kept our economy running hot and allowed the inflation to take hold? Yeah, that's how we pay off our debt. I mean, inflate it away. That's what we do. We've never paid off our debt. Are you kidding? Let's just make it look small by making our dollars worth less. That's all. And unfortunately, it is possible, but we're seeing a lot of global economics happening because, well, they predict the US dollar is going to go through these fluctuations in the future. And that's why gold is becoming so much more popular these days. You've seen the price of gold go up and up and up. We need to make sure that our portfolios are diversified and that we have the protections for inflation in case they occur. And if they don't, great, we're all going to be happy and everything's going to be fine, right? But adding a little bit of gold in your portfolio, making sure that you've got exposure to real estate, commodities are usually a good hedge, and certainly stocks have all historically been a good hedge because, as I pointed out here, in order to get to that, in order to inflate that away, well, one, we got to get our economy running hot, which guess what? That's really good for stocks. So yes, own stocks, but diversify. Have a more well-rounded portfolio that will make sure that you are able to handle some of that and grow with the inflation. All right, next one. Stop wasting money on taxes. This is the number 5 big thing to start doing if you're not already. Well, the first thing I have over here, and it looks like I've got to, yes. Okay. Which is less taxation? Let's focus over here real quick. Which is less taxation? This is kind of fun. 50,000 at 12%, and you have to pay $6,000 in taxes. Okay. So 50,000 at 12%, and you're taking $6,000 and paying that tax bill, or 5,000 at 24%, and you have to pay only $1,200. This has a very distinct purpose. I need you to think about this. Would you rather pay $1,200 or $6,000? And a lot of people look at that and say, well, I'd rather pay $1,200. I don't want to pay $6,000. And you're whoa, what happened there? And you're looking at the wrong thing. You're looking at the wrong thing. I want you to now think about this as a mountain of IRA money. If you have an opportunity to pull out 50,000 at 12% and pay $6,000, you should. And you should make that decision over the choice of pulling 5,000 out and paying 24%. Okay? You have to focus on the percentage you're paying, not the dollars you're paying. So if you're one of those that's not seeing the big picture in taxation, you need to ask yourself every year, how do I get money out of that IRA at the lowest taxation possible? And that does not include you waking up and arbitrarily taking $100,000 out of your IRA and converting it to Roth, or doing all of it all at once, ever. Always be looking at the percentage you're paying out. If you have room to take 50,000 out at 12% to avoid the 24, whether it's a smaller amount or not, do it. Always be looking at the percentage you're paying and try to get that money out at the lowest percentage possible. That is the game the day you go off into retirement. You look at that IRA every year. You want to figure out how to get it out at the lowest percentage, not the lowest dollar. Be proactive. Look at the life of that IRA. That includes as it passes to heirs. The other important part about wasting money on taxes, please, please, please pay attention to how you're investing this after-tax part of your portfolio. You have IRA money, Roth money, and the rest is non-qualified after-tax money, trust savings, whatever you want to call it. These are your brokerage accounts that get taxed as you have profits. You have to understand the difference between a mutual fund and an ETF. You have to understand the difference between the taxation of interest and maybe a qualified dividend, because they're two completely different things and they affect your taxation differently. This is why anybody choosing investments in this part of your portfolio or setting up the grander structure of your portfolio has to understand taxation. This matters much less in your younger years. This matters much more in your retirement years. Each investing choice comes with different tax consequences in this part of your portfolio, not in your Roth, not in your IRA, only here. So in this part of the portfolio, the general rules are limit the interest, limit the non-qualified dividends, limit the short-term capital gains. A lot of this just means no active trading. Get rid of the mutual funds. You should be using ETFs or individual stocks if need be. Okay? These are all taxed at full tax rates. Capital gains step up upon death. For some people, if they're not going to need this money for themselves, you should be buying and holding and letting it grow, 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 because when you pass away, the cost basis steps up and nobody owes the taxation. There's nothing more efficient than that. Qualified dividends and long-term capital gains are tax advantage. That's why dividend portfolios can be a very important part of a retiree's portfolio, and this is where you do it. Not necessarily your IRA or Roth, but this part is where you get the tax advantages. This is your after-tax part of your portfolio. So we have to understand that that part of your portfolio is different than your IRA and Roth. And the last part about wasting money on taxes is the flow, the structure, the organization of how you're funding your retirement. Control the flow. You have a checking account that has your Social Security and pension check, the income coming into it. You pay your bills out of that. You should have a savings account that's full of money for the upcoming year. You take money out of there as you need it, and then you go refill it once a year. Once. Not willy-nilly throughout the year. Oh, I need some more money. Oh, I need some more money. Oh, I need some more money. No! That's disorganized. That's chaos. That creates more taxation. That creates bad investment choices. You've got to clean this up and organize it, and you will be more efficient because of it. So you have IRA money, you have Roth money, you have after-tax money. You need to structure your investments to fund your retirement. The IRA is subject to withdrawals because required minimum distributions will eventually be more than yield. So at some point, you're going to be taking more. You're going to have to sell stocks, which means you're going to need more stable investments there because you're going to focus withdrawals out of there. Okay? So you should have some safe, stable investments and market exposure in your IRA. Now, the Roth, if you're not going to need this at all, fine, 100% stocks. I don't have a problem with that. Only pull profits out of there if you're ever going to pull a penny out of there, period. Okay, so some people create yield portfolios, so they're kicking out all the profits, and they take that as tax-free income. Other people want it in growth structure for their heirs or for later in life. I'm fine with all of those reasons, but use it wisely. If you're about to go into another tax bracket and you need a little extra money to refill that bank account, hey, Roth is a great place to pull from. Don't be one of those that, I shouldn't touch my Roth. I shouldn't touch my Roth. And then go through your entire life and never touch your Roth and not care if it goes to your heirs. Use it smartly to avoid higher taxation. Have safe, stable investments in each of these categories so you can pull and not pull from losses. You are only pulling from profits. Never pull from an investment that fell apart. You can sell that investment and reinvest it, but if you sell it and take it out, you locked in that loss. If you sell it and reinvest it, you're just trying to make a better future. Two completely different things, losses versus turbulence. Great. So never withdraw from losses. Refill your bank account annually. Manage the tax brackets by withdrawing from the appropriate tax categories. If you have this organized in your mind and you do this once a year with that big picture slide, remember the inventory and the calculation? Yeah, do that all together in November. It's that simple. So those are the 5 things, 5 categories, 5 whatever. This is really what I think is so important for every retiree, either people heading into retirement or people in retirement. You've got to know those 5 things. You've got to see those 5 things. You've got to be good at those 5 things. And that'll help you survive and enjoy and thrive in retirement. And that's what this is all about. Good financial advisors are going to help you do that. All right, if I can help in any way, this is the stuff I'm obviously passionate about. I love this stuff. Yourinvestmentcounselor.com. You can schedule a free meet and greet with me or any of our team. FPFEAZ.org is our nonprofit organization. We do full form education, full hour-long classes of different topics every single month. Register for those live classes. On that website, we also have a great little series with the Social Security Department on there as well. Give us a call, subscribe, smash that like button, comment. I do pay attention to the comments. I respond occasionally, and great to see you. Talk to you next week. Thanks again.